So you might be wondering or asking, what's the number one skill that I need to have to be rich? Stay tuned. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, my name is Frank Thomas. I teach wealth generation principles. Today we're going to be talking about what is the number one skill you need to master to become rich. You're going to be surprised because it's not what you think it is. Some might say, oh, you got to be a lofty leader, or you have to learn how to run a business, or you have to become some guru or whatever. No, it's much less than that, but much more than that at the same time. Believe it or not, the number one talent you need to foster and get involved in is teaching. Yeah, teaching. Isn't it crazy? What you would think would be one of the most boring things in the world, teaching. Now let me tell you why you need to become a proficient teacher. First off, you have to realize when you learn something, you will retain about, I'd say 60%, and I honestly think I'm being generous. Even if you get 100% on the tests, you still really only retain 60%. Let me use an experience from my past to cement this whole idea. I, years ago, went and did a course in class on how to become an MCSE, a Microsoft Certified Systems or Support Engineer, or whatever it is. I can't remember what it meant. Anyhow, I was doing this course and I would sit in the classroom, I'd zip through the course, and on Friday, because the course was a week long, a lot of them, sometimes over 2 weeks, and on Friday, I'd do the exam and I'd get 100%. I thought, oh, I know this stuff. Woo! I'm good. But then what happened was I found that I maybe learnt quite a bit and I had enough to get 100% on the exam, but the exam is easy compared to real life and teaching. So how do you get from that 60% to 100%? You've got to practice this new skill. There's a saying that says that you have to gain the hours of about 10 years of doing that particular profession to become a consummate expert or a master at that profession. So let's just say, for argument's sakes, 10 years. It's going to take you 10 years to get to 100%. Now you're considered a master. How can you shortcut that time back to teaching? Now, I found I was asked by this training center, because what happened was after I did the exams, it started getting around that I was always getting 100% on the exams. That was a bit of an anomaly because that didn't happen very often. I mean, I got 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. I had a lot of experience in another system. It's not like I was learning this information brand new. I already had about 3 years experience with a whole different system, but it's like one of those same thing, different pile. I still had enough base knowledge that I could pass these exams that were meant for somebody who just completed the course. But it didn't make me an expert, not by a long shot, and I know this now. If you want to work away at it for 10 years and become an expert, that's great. A lot of people do that. That's not a bad thing, but I can tell you teaching is the shortcut. Now, what happened was I started to get known getting 100%. So students would come to me, my fellow students, because I was just a student in the classroom, and they say to me, hey, can you help me out in this? I don't really understand it. So I talked to them about it, and I found that when I had to talk to them about the problem that they didn't understand, I had to go back into the book and read the book more, and I had to dig into it, and I had to really understand it, and then I could explain it to this person. I might have got 100% on the exam, but I only retained 60%. That's something I learned. Eventually the training center approached me and said, you have done so much work with other students in that we'd like to pay for your training to send you to the Microsoft Training Center and become a full Microsoft trainer so you can train the courses here at a college. And I'm like, I like that. That sounds pretty good. Pay was good. Hey, why not, eh? So that's exactly what I did. I came back. The next 6 months were the most grueling 6 months of my entire life. Students can smell a fraud a million miles away. And I'm dead serious. And all students are the same. And I'm not saying students are bad, but when a student knows they've got a teacher who really doesn't know their stuff, They can smell it, and they will go after you, and they will hunt you down. They're like a pack of hounds just chasing you because you don't understand your topic better. I found that when I was entering into a new area and I was teaching a new course, I would go home and I would spend hours and hours and hours going through the book and studying the book to ensure that I knew the topic I was going to teach the next day inside and out. And hey, I still got caught all the time with questions like, oh, I don't know what that is. But you know, one thing I had learned was to be humble and say, you know, you've caught me with something I don't know. Let me get back to you on that. Or what I would say is, hey, I'm not 100% sure, but let's dig into the book and let's figure it out together. These were little things that I would do right in the classroom with my students. Now, a curious thing happened. The first 3 months, I don't even remember. They were a complete write-off because I was working 12, 14, 18 hours a day. I ate to survive and I was exhausted at the end of the day. That was my day as a teacher. But it was exhilarating because what happened was I went from what I thought I knew 100% to really knowing 100%. Literally within about 6 to 9 months, it was really particularly bizarre. I would have students sit down in front of me and say, oh yeah, I just did this exam and I had this question and these were the answers and I have no idea. And I say, well, that it's answer B and it's on page 265 or whatever the page in the book was. I actually knew the page number where the answer lie. It's because I had scoured the book so much and I had became such an expert in those topics that the person did the exam in that I knew the answer. I could see the answer right in the book. Now you'd say to yourself, oh, that's great. You can be a great teacher and you can teach this course. Now it was very profitable for me to teach. But I took that as a takeaway because I realized if I wanted to shortcut my learning process and accelerate my career, and I'm already jumping into my future benefits, but hey, that's all good, is I needed to learn to teach. And I've been doing that ever since. Every time even if I don't know the topic, I'll teach it. And I'll teach it by making notes. Now, notes is important. That's going to be my bonus, and I'll get into that here shortly. But you need to make notes of what you're learning so you can go back and reference them again. First of all, as you can guess, one of your number one benefits to teaching, this is back to becoming rich, because you only get rich if you're a strong professional in your area of expertise. That's your first steps. So if you want to become a professional quickly, teach, because you'll take that 10-year time frame and shorten it right down to months, if not just a couple of years. I found that after I had stopped teaching and I started taking positions, I found that I could take intermediate positions right off the kick because I had such an intimate knowledge of my topic. I could answer questions that even the senior support people couldn't answer. I found that that really helped me, and I've taken that lesson forward. Your strongest benefit is it accelerates your career. The faster you can accelerate your career and become a master at what you do, the more you can make faster and you can get rich faster, because your time is your ultimate resource and you want to make sure that you use that ultimate resource to its strongest benefit, and that means making as much as possible per hour that you work. Another big benefit that you're going to get is you're going to increase your audience. You're going to increase your scope of who you can influence in your particular profession. Now this is really important. This reminds me of a story. I was learning a new piece of software. I was just really learning how to program at the time. What I was doing is I was doing lessons, and I was teaching lessons to people online I was actually just using YouTube, and I was making these lessons, but I wasn't doing it to make lessons. I was doing it so I'd remember in 2 weeks' time how to do this particular thing. And I figured, well, if it's helpful to me, it'll be helpful to somebody else. I won't lie, it eventually snowballed on me. I had a lot of people reach out to me. I made thousands of connections with people whom I would never make connections with because I was teaching something that I was actually learning. Became the expert. I became such an expert on that piece of software. I had the company who developed the software reach out to me and ask me to be their spokesperson in their training videos because I had become such a trusted face in that particular realm. The next thing is you'll be able to discover things that you would have never discovered, new ideas, new topics, new trains of thought, that you would have never discovered if you weren't teaching that particular topic. Because what happens is when you're teaching, it forces your mind to kind of think about all the options and all the situations and opportunities and how things could pan out. And that's really important, because then you look at the topic at a much broader scope. Again, it makes you a better professional. So that's the second thing. Final thing is keep a written record of what you're training. Now this is really important. Think of it as your external hard drive to your computer. Yeah, it's great having a computer, type in all your information, whenever you're doing stuff, you're doing work. But what happens if your hard drive blows up? Something happens that the information is lost. Now you got to go back and do all that research again. I call it tilling the ground the second time. I really hate tilling the ground on anything more than once. And I'll make fastidious notes on whatever I'm training, because that way I can turn around, reference my notes whenever I need to go over that material again. So I never have to till the ground again, and it gives my brain a bit of a break. I don't expect my brain to remember everything. I call it my external brain, so to speak. It gives me more headspace to learn more. In other words, I'm giving myself permission to actually forget stuff, because I know I've already got my notes already secured and I can reference them anytime I need. Another way that I find that is very helpful is cue cards. You know, these little cue cards you can buy at the store. Use them as well. That's a great way, especially if you're trying to learn some new information. Use those darn things. They're cheap, they're inexpensive, and you can, use them as flashcards for yourself. What are you going to do with all this once you start putting it into practice? I promise you there's a number of benefits you're going to get, and I've already talked about some of these benefits. First of all, you will slash your time to becoming a master at what you do. It's crazy how much you slash that and how fast you become a master in what you do. I moved into senior realms of every profession I've ever done over my life very quickly after I started to learn to teach. The next thing is you will accelerate your earning potential. In other words, you will go from earning $20 an hour to $30 an hour to $40 to $50 to $100 an hour to thousands of dollars an hour, and that will accelerate your ability to get rich. You want to try really hard to make your time worth as much as physically possible. And teaching, to me, is one of the number one skills you can learn to increase that. And not only that, you open up your scope, as I was talking about earlier. You create a wider audience for people to get to know you and to be able to seek out opportunities you would have never guessed about if you hadn't become a teacher and you weren't reaching out to other people and you weren't teaching other people your skills. How do you become a teacher? It's really simple. You just start teaching. It could be a YouTube video. It could be taking notes on a particular topic. It could be a number of things. These are all teaching, because you're either teaching somebody else or you're teaching yourself. It's one or the other. Now, make sure that your notes are something that you can actually use in the long run. That they're notes that you can index and access. I use a program called Obsidian. Take a peek on the internet. It's a great little program. It's completely free if you want to use it for free. It allows you to index and track all your notes, link them together, everything you want to do. Now, I always try to keep things simple. So if you just want to use a notepad, as you can see when I'm doing show notes, that's all I got. I just got a simple notepad. I went to the local bookstore. They had these on sale for $1.50 each or $2 each, so I bought a whack of them. And they're great because it allows me to put all my show notes into them. And that becomes a living record for me. And I use those to teach. And even in these videos, these YouTube videos, that's all I do is I'm teaching you. And I tell you something, it's opening up my mind to things that I didn't even think about in the investment realm as I tell you these things in these videos. All of a sudden I have to really think about it and think, like, for example, what's the number one skill that people could learn? Teaching, of course. Teaching. And I would have never guessed or thought that if I hadn't had a discussion with my lovely spouse, because we were teaching, because she's a teacher as well. So start teaching right away, and make sure you start hitting that subscribe button. That button at the bottom, that subscribe button, click it. And if you like this video, like the video, please. It helps YouTube to know that this was a video that you thought was a good video and other people should see it. So start teaching today. Hey, I hope that helped you out. Be sure to check out the video you see right now, just right beside me. It talks about different age categories and what is the most important thing you need to focus in on if you want to be able to get rich for retirement. Frank Thomas will talk to you in the next video. Cheers.